Hello, welcome to part 40 of Whom Seek Ye. We've managed to do 5 of the 7 deadly sins, and now we're on to the 6th. And this 6th one is called wrath, and people confuse it with anger. Wrath is more than anger. Wrath is essentially the desire to do something in an uncontrollable rage. It's an uncontrolled emotion. Now, one thing you'll probably think of is the wrath of God. You've probably heard someone, perhaps a teacher, say to you that if you do that, I will bring down the wrath of God upon you. Now, what do they mean? If God has wrath, then isn't that a sin? We call it one of the 7 deadly sins. What's going on here? Can God have wrath but we can't? Sounds like a double standard. Well, first of all, we've got to say to ourselves, first of all, God is not like us. God is divine. Our Lord Jesus Christ is divine and human. So talk of the wrath of God, we can't expect it to be like the wrath of man. First of all, if we think about wrath of God, what we're really talking about here is not a passion, it's not a fury, because God is not like human beings. He doesn't suffer from emotions like that. What we have to understand, the wrath of God is God's attitude towards sin. That's the only place that it occurs. God hates sin, and the reason is very clear. God hates sin because sin separates human beings from God. That's why he hates it. He loves us and wants us to be with him. Therefore, anything that separates us from him, he hates and will do something about it. Now, what is the wrath of God? Well, here is the great irony. God is so furious about our sin that he seeks to destroy it. And how do you destroy a separation? How do you mend a torn piece of paper? You stick it back together again. How do you mend a broken friendship? You make friends again. How do you restore human beings to God? The answer is that the wrath of God is precisely the death on the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ. That's what the wrath of God is. He hates sin so much that he dies for us in order to be reunited to him. And that means that there is a lesson here for us. Because if Jesus suffers death, well, the Latin for suffer, patior, is where we get the word patience from. Patience is about endurance. It's about suffering indignities. It's about putting up with things that are not right in order that things may be put right. And so when our Lord Jesus Christ suffers death upon the cross, he suffers with patience. And here's the key thing. The antidote for human wrath the anger that we have for one another, for injustices done to ourselves, is to bear with them, to forgive. Because if God, in the old phrase, hates a sin but loves the sinner, that's how we have to be too. We have to hate the sin and love the sinner. Now we can't make good. We're not built to do that. But what we can do is allow good to be made by God. And so every time we act foolishly in anger, every time we hate someone with that passion, that wrath, that consuming hatred for another, we're stopping God's goodness from flowing, at least in the way that it could do. God's goodness will always find a way, but perhaps we are meant to be the way that it does flow. Perhaps we are going to be the method by which God makes good a wrong. And so wrath, this feeling of indignation, is related to pride. Can't even see that, can you? Because you feel that you're entitled not to have things done to you. In the United States, I believe they call people who with that sort of sense of entitlement, they call them Karens, which is rather unfortunate for anyone actually legitimately named Karen. But these women who go around sort of professionally offended at this, that and the other, they have no patience. They have no desire to do anything other than act upon their own entitlement, and thereby they separate themselves from everybody. And they become more and more miserable and more bitter and more angry, and they can't do anything about it. It's a horrible thing to do and to become. The way that we can deal with wrath is through patience, by suffering injustice, for the love of God, so that he can do something about it. And so I think as St. Paul would say, we should glory, we should be happy when we're weak, because when we're weak, God is strong. When we're feeling angry and indignant, we should rejoice, because that means that God is going to do something. God is going to make something right. God will be perfectly just. Just as we will be made right on the day of judgment, so will the injustices done to us. There's no point in having wrath, because God's got it all sorted out. And to say that, well, we can sort it out, that's pride. So you can see the relationship there. So, God bless you, particularly if you're feeling angry and aggrieved and indignant at this time. You've had some injustice done to you. God bless you, that you may be strong enough to bear it and seek good for the outcome. God bless you if someone is angry with you, and see what you can do to bring about the goodness of God. God bless you if you think that God is angry with you, and know that he loves you more than you can possibly ever know. God bless you, and please pray for me.